Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. Let's talk about cats, those darlings of the internet, loved by most, hated by some. And believe me, my grandmother was one that couldn't stand being around cats. I had a friend who once, well, when she was young, somebody put a deceased pussycat in a locked car with her. So this is not a judgment on them, but we have an interesting study out of Australia. Now this is a combined study. They've been working on this since 1995. They've done different control groups, which means, well, let's see where this takes us. The Queensland Centre for Medical Health Research published a study that cat ownership can be linked to schizophrenia. Now, you notice how they say linked. Correlation does not equal causation. They're saying, hey, there's factors that are common here. They're not saying if you buy a cat, you're going to be schizophrenic. And with the sheer number of people who own cats, it's guaranteed that you're going to get a statistical percentage that have all sorts of things. And I mean the humans, not the cats. Now, of course, there's that link to, what is it? Toxoplasma gondii, I believe it is, which is a parasite that can be transmitted from cats to humans. And it's actually a pretty scary thing if you look it up. And that's one of the theories that they're saying is this parasite might be causing the schizophrenia. The problem is there's so many factors that contribute to cat ownership. And remember, this is talking anything from feeding your local stray moggy to having the cat ladies. That's a bad term these days. But the cat people who have like 30 cats in a one-bedroom apartment or something like that. Yes, we all adore the little critters, but I like to limit mine to no more than 4, and most of the time it's 2. So that way when I'm locked in my studio recording stuff like this, they can amuse each other and not bother me. Again, this is a theory that they have. They're not saying A causes B, it's A and B go together. Schizophrenia is still not well understood. And there's plenty of people that have schizophrenia that never had anything whatsoever to do with a cat. Well, that might be hard to prove because cats are ubiquitous in human life. Because our ancestors realized that they were good at, chasing away mice and other things like that, they've gotten along with us. And we have somehow developed a little bit of a toxic relationship with cats. I mean, we feed them, we pet them, we make sure they're comfortable, and in return, there's not really many mice for them to chase anymore. And there have been studies showing that cats born without any reference of how to chase a mice forget their hunting abilities. So right now, we're the ones doing all the work with cats. And schizophrenia is a very hard to define disease. Most people picture some person dreaming aliens are coming down and we need tinfoil hats to get the government raised from controlling our minds. Yeah, there's a whole spectrum of schizophrenia. And there are indeed the multiple personality people. There are indeed people with delusions. Schizophrenia is an umbrella term. And there's so much underneath it. So again, this is a correlation. It's not a causation because such an umbrella term. It's like autism. I've ranted before about how I don't like the term autism because it can be somebody has trouble paying attention in class, all the way to nonverbal, barely able to survive without being personally taken care of by others. It's a huge spectrum. And schizophrenia, um, uh, experiences with it may vary. You have people that just kind of go into a fugue state, which means they're awake and they're aware, but it's kind of like they're in a trance. Um, to, like I said, multiple personalities. There's no way to diagnose it except medically. And the funny thing about these studies, remember, most of them are performed on college and university students. Because when a doctor or anybody wants to do one of these studies, they don't need to go much further than the local common room, put up a flyer saying students needed for half hour study, compensation $10, $20, whatever, a chance in a lottery to win whatever the heck it is, and yeah, that's all they need to do. So most of these studies are literally, how do college kids react to this sort of thing? How do university kids react to this sort of thing? It's very difficult to do controlled studies on the actual population in the wild. So you're already talking about an elite group, people who can get into college, university. I know, I can tell you, I don't like being referred to as elite, but at the same token, it's true. The top 15% get into college and university, and then only the top 8 to 10% graduate out of that. So, and the people who are the ones participating in these studies either find the subject matter interesting because they're into it and they want to see what the experiment is about, in which case your example is slightly skewed, or they need the money. And let's be honest, these days there are rich kids in university and college, but the same token, most of them are scrambling just to get enough money to eat. And their idea of eating is, an extra packet of ramen noodles. As a former university student, in a simpler time, yeah, I was doing pretty good. I had a job, a fairly good job, and I was able to afford some things that my friends could not. And yeah, that's simply the way it was. So I never participated in any of these studies because they were not common. And yeah, but I know a lot of people that did. One of my friends, ironically, who shares the same first name with me, he would do all that sort of stuff. And it was more a case of he was fascinated with it rather than anything. Now, I had cats, he didn't. What difference did that make in our income level? Nothing. Right now, he's making more than me because he got into the trades and he got into a specialized trade, so he basically works for the government. What does that have to do with university? Nothing. Neither one of us is using our degree. Well, I suppose I'm using my degree on this channel, given that I was into humanities. Whereas, you know, he wound up, getting a job and a wife and stuff like that, and, we're each successful in our own way. Now, back to this link. University students represent a small percent of the population. And you know what? You kind of want to be crazy to continue your education. We all hear it, high school kids saying, "Oh, I want to graduate so I can go on and get a job and do stuff with my friends and get my own place." And a lot of people are happy working in a factory. This is no slight about a factory. You can still get decent factory jobs. You can wind up getting promoted to supervisor, foreman, whatever they have there. Whereas university students are already a little bit different than the rest of the population. They're saying, nope, my path to success lies through whatever you care to specialize in. So when you're drawing a conclusion from these college and university studies from the Queensland Medical Institution, they've already got a skewed sample size. Now, is their research invalid because of that? No, because there are schizophrenic students. There are students with cats, so they used what they were given. You can be choosy to a certain extent with your research. You can't be too choosy. And again, correlation does not equal causation. Because you have a link doesn't mean you have the right link. The other day I talked about the beer and diapers correlation. Was that always the reason? Was it always the mother was at home and they asked the father to go out and get diapers? Not 100% of the time. A significant percentage of the time, but not 100% of the time. And diseases, and schizophrenia is a disease. That's not intended to offend anybody who has that condition, but it is a condition that requires medical attention. Well, most times. I'm sure there's a mild form of schizophrenia that, you can live with and you just need to watch certain things. We live in a society, and this is valuable information. As I said, there's no single cause to schizophrenia. This is forwarding the frontiers in its own way by saying, aha, we know cats. There's something in environment there. Maybe people who have schizophrenia are naturally more attracted to cats because they're soft, they're fuzzy, and I find they're grounding. When I wake up in the middle of the night and I hear a noise, hey, I have vivid dreams. Very vivid. So one of the first things I check is whether my cats have perked up and are paying attention too. If they're sleeping and they don't care, probably I don't need to worry about it. But if their ears are up and they're looking around, I probably need to worry about it. Maybe schizophrenics are the same way, where they're trying to figure out, hey, is this real? Is this not real? Because schizophrenics do have a slightly altered perception of reality, or a majorly altered one. And cats aren't like dogs where they'll bark at a squirrel running across the yard. Maybe it's a unconscious defense mechanism they're using to reassure themselves. Whatever it is, this is good research. I slammed it a little bit for, using university students, but it is very good research. It's something we need to explore more. Now, I'm not inventive enough to suggest a follow-on study. And fortunately, I don't need to, because there's many universities out there. There's a 1995 preliminary study, as I mentioned earlier, that took place, I think it was in Saudi Arabia. I actually clicked on the paper for a second or two, and it was the whole thing, the abstract, the preamble, all that sort of thing, and I just wasn't in the mood to research that much for what's going to be a 10 to 15 minute video. One day, maybe I'll start going back to long form videos, and then I'll definitely do a lot more research. But let's be honest, as the audience, you're expecting 10 to 15 minutes, and then you're sick of my voice, at least for the day. Because that's the entire thing. YouTube has realized that. After 10 to 15 minutes, you're losing your audience's attention unless you're doing something so spectacular. I'm going to pick on the food theorists, where they're comparing which burger has, which size of French fries is the best to buy at each place. Yes, they have an entertaining presentation. They're able to keep that interest, but most people are sick of you after 10 to 15 minutes. And the tagline to this, I think, is worth 10 minutes of paying attention. I might be wrong. Again, the customer is always right. You are my customers. And I get to watch the statistics on these, and I'm going to see whether this was a good video or not a good video. How long you listen, all that sort of stuff. I get that information. And I'm hoping the cats are going to drag you in, and the association with schizophrenia still has that stigma attached to it. Oh, that's the really crazy person disease. It isn't. There's a spectrum, and there's a lot crazier things that you can be outside of the schizophrenic spectrum. But like I said, 10 to 15 minutes is about how long that I'm aiming for, and I think I've gone over that at the present time. So with that, we hope you enjoyed this edition of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, because sharing is caring. Don't forget to click the subscription button if you haven't already. There's also the notifications button, however it appears on your computer, whether it's a bell or anything else. That way you can be notified every time there's a new episode of the Silverlight Show coming out. If there's more than one of you, click it twice. That's my kind of double entendre. But so please don't be offended by that. And with that, we hope you have a fantastic day.